This grinder is 43 years old, still going strong. It's a 8-inch grinder, 200 millimeters I guess is new money. The only issue I have with it is the platforms. They're just a little weak, they're just a pressed metal thing. So I'm going to make some new platforms for it. Hello and welcome to another episode on the White Dog Garage YouTube channel. My name is Bob. As per usual, I've raided the scrap bin. I've got a piece of 75 by 75 by 8mm thick angle and a piece of 6mm by 25 flat bar that I'll be using to form the arms. The piece of scrap angle I've chosen to make the platforms out of is short, and I find it easiest and safest in these circumstances to make these types of cuts with the bandsaw. Here I am cutting the piece in two, holding it in a fixture plate which in turn is held in place by the bandsaw's clamp. For convenience, I also use the bandsaw to cut the pieces of flat bar that I will use to make the arms for the two platforms. I need to square up the cut faces of the angle, and we'll use our Hafco bench mill to do this. Clamping the angle piece in the jaws of a trammed-in machine vise, I mark the ends that are most out of square to the apex of the angle. I will be using a 20mm slot drill to machine these, fitting it to the bench mill's ER32 chuck. I touch off the slot drill at the side opposite my marks and then machine the two edges parallel and perpendicular to the apex of the angle. Having machined the face and back edges of the platform parallel and perpendicular to the apex of the angle, I use a face mill to machine the surface of the platform to remove the original mill scale. Off camera, I have machined the other platform, noting that the two are mirror images of each other as they will be positioned on the left and right sides of the grinder. I've also welded the L-shaped arms that will hold the platforms. Given the thickness of the platform, I need to machine a bevel on the leading edge so that it can be tilted against the rotating grinder wheel. Along with its dovetail vertical slide, one of the other features of the Hafco HM45 bench mill that I am using is its tilting head. These features are also common to the current Hafco HM46, HM47 and HM48 models. Tilting the head on this machine is one way to machine a bevel edge, but because I wanted a recessed bevel, the better workaround here is to use a fixture. I'm using a simple fixture for this, a V-block with the platform clamped on its side, the back edge of which is resting in the valley of the block. Having marked the centre of the recess, I position the mill spindle over it. Swapping out the drill chuck and centre for a 20mm diameter end mill, I proceed to machine out the recess. The bevel is 45 degrees, the recess will be 5mm in from the top edge and 30mm wide. The two L-shaped arms will each bolt to one side of their respective platforms. But first I want to remove some of the excess material bordering the mounting point. To ensure uniformity, I made a cardboard stencil of the wave shape that I wanted to create. I then used it to mark the area to be cut off from the side leg of each platform. That done, I used a cut-off disc and an angle grinder to shape the side of each platform. On to machining an 80mm long slot in each of the arms that will hold the platforms. The arms bolt to the grinder spark guard with a pair of M8 that is 8mm diameter bolts. I'm making the slots 9mm wide. Mounting the arm to be machined on the bench mill, I mark one end of the slot by drilling a 9mm diameter hole before traversing to the other end and drilling a 9mm diameter hole there. Swapping the drill chuck out for an ER32 collet chuck fitted with a 9mm end mill, I make 3 passes from one hole to the other to machine the slot into the mounting arm. The new platforms and arms are a bespoke attachment, so I make a check of their position and alignment on the grinder to determine the position of the bolt that will hold the two components together. Each platform will be bolted to its corresponding arm with an M8 bolt, so it was on to drilling an 8.5mm diameter hole in each of the platforms before drilling and tapping an 8mm diameter by 1.25mm pitch threads into the two arms. Now the two platforms with arms attached are ready for fitting to the grinder. Finally, I've reached the stage now where I'm ready to fit the arms and the platforms to the grinder. When I take off the old arm, the bolt that holds it in place is too short for the thicker arm that I'm replacing it with. Not a problem, I thought. I'll just use a longer bolt. Well, when I actually went to fit a longer bolt, I was fitting naturally a metric bolt because the machine's made in Taiwan. What I found, in fact, is the bolt is 5/16/20 UNC, Unified National Course, or what we call in Australian, American thread. And anyhow, I don't have this size in stock. I have a lot of metric. I do have some UNC, just not anything as small as this. And I thought, okay, what am I going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is, on the other side, I had managed to strip the thread some time ago. I had to, because I was using it at the time, simple fix was I just grabbed a 6mm bolt, put it through the whole thing and continued to use, and it's continued that way for probably 15 years. Anyhow, I'd always thought when I got to do this job that I would fix that thread. I'm going to change them to 8mm thread, which is what I thought they'd be, and that's what I'm going to do now. I'll do both sides. So it's on to changing the mounting threads and the spark shields. Removal is straightforward, and I will only show the one side. First, I undo the screws that hold the side cover on and remove it. Next, I remove the grinding wheel after first using a pen to mark its position on the shaft. Note that bench grinder shafts normally have right-hand thread on the right and a left-hand thread on the left. With the grinding wheel out of the way, the 3 screws holding the spark shield are undone and it's removed. The original threads were formed in holes punched through the shield, the cheap manufacturing method, and I start by drilling these out with an 8.5mm jobber drill. The remnants, they're removed with a flat disc. I'm using M8 nuts to form the replacement threads. These are held in place with bolts while I weld them up using oxy-acetylene. The spark shields have aluminium oxide from the grinding wheels, steel and goodness knows what else embedded in them. Given such a dirty field on thin metal, oxy-acetylene is my weld of choice as it readily deals with impurities. Reassembly of the grinder shield was the reverse of disassembly, and then came the fitting of the new platforms. They are a real improvement on the old ones. Despite marking the grinding wheels and their position on the shaft, they are unbalanced after the refit. What I'm not showing here is the whole day I spent getting them rebalanced. Maybe that's another video. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you have not, and I look forward to you joining me for the next video from the White Dog Garage YouTube channel. Bye!